How's it going, everyone? Cuppa Anime Joe here. And let me say, what a time it is to be a One Piece fan. Today, we're here to talk about chapter 1114, titled The Wings of Icarus, which we find out later involves Vegapunk being the one who flies a little too close to the sun. So the chapter starts off with basically picks right up from where the last chapter left off, right? So Vegapunk says the world's going to sink into the ocean, and he's met with a pretty wide variety of responses. We see Sakazuki just looking grim with the ... This makes me wonder if he knows anything about what Vegapunk's about to say, or if this is all going to be news to him. With this secretive and hush-hush as the world government is about things, I wouldn't be surprised if Sakazuki, even as an admiral before and the fleet admiral now, just knows nothing. We have Mocktown, the town of mockery, mocking what Vegapunk is saying. Imagine that. And they're all laughing, saying he's trying to panic everyone and, following up with, how is the whole world supposed to sink? Well, this is just a case of ignorance because they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't know if Mocktown wasn't affected by the events of Leloucia, but, and we'll get to this later, people have already seen a example, like a small taste of something like this actually happening. We visit Water 7, and we see Paulie again. Yeah. But he says, if he was just talking about our city, because we know that from Aqua Laguna, Water 7 gets, flooded, and they have to build on top of it, right? That's kind of the way that they do things there. So Paulie says, if he was talking about just our island, I'd believe him in an instant. But even he admits that it would take a lot more than rising tides to flood the whole world. And we pretty much already know that that's the case. This is a lot more than just simply rising tides. And then we got Mr. Doflamingo. Man, I love Doflamingo. And he is just cracking up. I have a feeling that as a former celestial dragon, Doflamingo might actually know more about what's going on than many of the other people watching this broadcast. And he is laughing it up, talking to Magellan, saying that things just keep getting better and better. And we actually find out here that Impel Down, while being an underwater prison, is not immune to the water level rising, right? Because Doflamingo asks, what are you going to do if the prison gets completely flooded? And Magellan admits that Doflamingo has a point, and that the sudden sea rise from earlier wreaked havoc on some of the cells, which does make me think that Impel Down could end up just getting flooded completely if the water level rised too much. And I actually think this might be a tidbit of foreshadowing here, where Doflamingo says maybe we should all evacuate. We could always go somewhere higher up. So he is definitely talking about Marie Joie, which is where he wants to return to anyway. But I also really think that this might be a hint to, or some foreshadowing for, a impending round 2 Impel Down breakout. Because I really think that Doflamingo needs to get out. There's probably other people still here that need to escape. But the main person I'm thinking of is Bon Clay and the remainder of the newcomer that he is now leading over in place of Ivankov. So I, for a long time, really thought that Bon Clay was going to escape. And I think that this is possibly kind of setting up something like that happening. We quickly visit the Ryugu Kingdom, where Shirahoshi is surprised this is going to happen. And King Neptune is like, it sounds so outlandish, Jamon. I forgot about his little speech quirk there. But they're in the list of people who are surprised. And I guess it makes sense. This would be kind of an outlandish thing to just hear when you've lived for so long without anything like this happening. And we get a guy, he's a Marine. I don't know his name, but he says enough with the lies and madness, Vegapunk. So I feel like some of the Marines just are going to be on the side of not believing Vegapunk. But there's definitely going to be members of the Marines who take him seriously. Very possibly, such as Sakazuki earlier. I think that he is one who might not so quickly dismiss Vegapunk's message and Dr. Vegapunk as a whole. And let me say, the Gorosei, they are shitting bricks right now. They realize I would wager they've already realized the gravity of what's going on, but now they really realize the gravity of what's going on. And I don't know which one of them is speaking here, but they basically uniformly say, quickly eradicate the broadcast snail. No. Snuff out every living thing you can sense. We can deal with the ramifications later. So I do think the Gorosei are going to start being more aggressive and maybe start caring less about trying to preserve some things. There are other things, like we're going to see the Mother Flame later, that I really think they're going to try and preserve because they need that Mother Flame. But they're reaching a point where they would rather just eradicate all of Egghead Island and deal with the problem later. And York's still trying to figure out where the snail is, but she must also know some or all of what Stella's about to say, because she says, damn, Stella, did he really spill the beans on everything? Which, again, kind of makes me think, and this would make sense, right? Because York is a satellite. So if the Stella had uploaded any of what he's about to say as just general information to Punk Records, then the other satellites would be aware of it. And so we keep cutting around the world, and we find out that he predicted the events of Lelucia Kingdom, assuming my sensor data is accurate. A few days from now, as I record this, an exceptionally vicious earthquake will rock the entire planet. And at first I thought he was predicting something that hasn't happened yet, but based off of some of the reactions we get after this, I think he might have been predicting the earthquake that happened after the world government nuked Lelucia Kingdom. And we see Charlotte Smoothie. Of all the people I expected to see, I did not expect to see the Big Mom Pirates. She exclaims, don't tell me he's talking about today's earthquake. Didn't he die after this recording? He died today. We don't know when he recorded this broadcast. He also could have recorded the broadcast earlier in the day, or it could have been a handful of days ago. But either way, it really seems like he knew that this was coming. Following this calamity, sea levels the world over will rise by 1 meter. A number of islands will become uninhabitable. And we see a shot of an island here. I'm not sure we know what it is, but its land is completely covered up. Like, you can see the sea level is up to the middle of some of these buildings, and its citizens are just sitting on boats. And they're equally as surprised as Smoothie was, saying no way he actually saw it coming. Vegapunk continues, and naturally many beaches will also be completely submerged. And in fairness for science, if this doesn't come to pass, feel free to disregard the rest of this message. So he admits that the basis of his prediction is this first round of the water levels rising. And that if this weren't to have happened, even though it did, the rest of his message would probably not be accurate. And then now we're back to Hachinosu, and instead of them fighting and arguing amongst themselves, now they're freaking out. This is freaky. How was he able to call it? And we see Kuzan there, and we actually do know that he was on Hachinosu. And you know what? This is telling of something. Kuzan has the same ... reaction that Sakazuki did. Another former admiral reacting in the same way. So I wonder if even Kuzan, post leaving the Marines and becoming a pirate, still hasn't figured any of this out yet. Vegapunk continues, assuming, however, these events have transpired, then please pay heed to what I have to say. And so we know that they did, and so we should continue paying attention to Vegapunk. And he dropped something here that, again, we knew, but I just think it's cool that he predicted all of this stuff. The earthquake I just predicted cannot, strictly speaking, be considered a natural phenomenon. And this is what really cinched it to me, that I think he's talking about the stuff with Lelucia, because that wasn't natural. That was directly caused by the good old WG, or really the Celestial Dragons. Saturn is, with the rest of the Gorosei, freaking out. Not another word, Vegapunk. So we have Saturn kind of pushes the Straw Hats out of the way, right? Like we saw earlier that the Gorosei were all really freaking out, and now they realize that they have truly run out of time. And, the Straw Hats here did a valiant job at holding Saturn back. He brushes them aside. They do get caught by Robin with her Devil Fruit, but I think he just blitzes right on past them and starts looking for the broadcast as well. And Vegapunk continues, stating, I've always naively yearned for peace and prosperity, and that brought me to what proved to be my first grave sin. I was fixated on my dream of developing an everlasting energy source, hell-bent on driving the world to a bigger and brighter future. But I flew too close to the sun. And I mentioned this earlier, that the title of the chapter hinted at Vegapunk himself. And as he says this, we get our first shot of the Mother Flame, which I also think this confirms what its name is. Because I remember when it was first revealed, there were kind of two names going around, Mother Flame and Mother Frame. But here I think pretty much cinches it that it's Mother Flame. And we have this big sphere with like a flame suspended in the middle of it in what looks like liquid of some kind. I'm hesitant to say that it's water, because it would be interesting to see a flame that could be suspended in water. But then if it's supposed to be some kind of everlasting power source, maybe it can exist inside of anything. The Gorosei are still going crazy. We have to eradicate all life forms. We must be relentless. So this is where I wonder if we're going to get the turning point with the Gorosei, where they're the ones who really start showing out more and really trying harder to stop this broadcast. Vegapunk continues, I shouldn't get ahead of myself, though. In order to understand where the world is heading, we must first address the past, specifically what happened between 900 and 800 years ago. So this is going to be a little Void Century lore here, I think, that we're going to get. And we have a few more panels alongside this. The Marines are trying to take out the Iron Giant, which isn't happening. He's unstoppable to their piddly little cannons. Just like pretty much everything else on this island of note has been unstoppable to their piddly little cannons. But they're freaking out too. What is it? We didn't even phase it. Of course not. It's huge. Look at it. It could like flick you and you'd go flying. It looks like Mercury is either causing flames, or the flames from the Buster Call have just caught up to this battle. because we have Dory and Bragi now running, with Dory explaining, "Youch, that's hot," and Bragi explaining, "We'll be burned to a crisp if we don't hurry." So they're definitely like really in escape mode now, with the flame catching up. And here I found this interesting, in that it seems like not even all of the celestial dragons themselves know about the Void Century, because we have some of what looks to be the older members chastising the Marines, bring Vegapunk back so we can torture him and kill him again, right? Because apparently him already being dead is not good enough for them. But we have, I can't remember her name, but I think she is Saint Charlos's sister. And she says, the Void Century, what is he talking about? So I don't know if the younger celestial dragons don't know, or maybe only some of the members know, or maybe you reach a certain age and then you get told. But it looks like not even all of the celestial dragons are aware of the Void Century and its happenings in general. That, or they just, maybe because they know the history, to them it's not a Void Century. So I suppose it could be that too, right? And so she's just not aware that to the rest of the world there is this blank in time that nobody knows about. We see Saul. It's great to see Saul. It's confirmed that he's alive. Dara she. And he is probably just listening to the broadcast. I don't see a Dendenmushi around him. But, I mean, he knows everything Vegapunk's about to say, because I'm sure a lot of what Vegapunk learned came from records of Ohara that Saul himself also has access to. And we get a few more reactions. We have a shot of Orange Town, and we get to see Chew again. Gotta love Chew. Who doesn't love a good puppykins? I think that we see Amazon Lily. There's a little reaction panel of Amazon Lily, but there's no text. There's just also ... So we got plenty of ... going around. So Vegapunk also continues that while it's a Void Century, there is still a way to learn about the past, and that lies in the poneglyphs. The text inscribed on them, once decoded, is our one and only method of glimpsing this unknown past. So we've known this for a while, especially with Robin and stuff, but it really is going to come down to the poneglyphs that teach us fully about what happened. And Vegapunk also later admits that he doesn't know the whole story. And he continues, despite this, any attempts to decipher the poneglyphs is considered taboo by the world government. And so I felt compelled to commit my second grave sin. So in this chapter, we learn both of Vegapunk's grave sins. I betrayed the government and studied this forbidden era myself. So the first grave sin to him is creating of the Mother Flame, because I really think that its existence is what's going to let some of these things come to pass. That's like a sin to the world in his eyes, I imagine. And then his second sin is more in the eyes of the government, actually moving forward with studying the Void Century. And like I'd mentioned a little bit before, I was fortunate enough to inherit several documents from a certain group of exceptional archaeologists, and that allowed me to decipher a number of poneglyphs. And this, of course, is Ohara. I pursued this research as far as possible, and I have no regrets. History is a story, after all. So I love this. Vegapunk actively chose to do this, and he knew what he was doing. We find out what Edison's plan was. I fear this might be the end of Edison, because he's huffing and wheezing and leaning up on the side of a machine here. But we see the island clouds near where the Sunny is, stretch. So I think that Edison created more island clouds to push the end point of the island clouds to where it roughly matches the end point of the island below, so that if the Sunny Kude bursts, one, they don't just hit the ground, but two, they're far enough out from the starting point that they can get past the marine ships. So Edison with the island clouds is effectively performing what the Vega Force 1 was supposed to do, which would have been carrying them to the edge of the island. And he says, y'all Straw Hats better make it out. Don't you dare get caught by the government. And we, of course, know, don't worry, Edison. We know for sure the Straw Hats are not going to get caught by the world government. And then we have the last panel of this chapter. And this is where Vegapunk admits, I only know a small fragment of this 100-year-long tale. Which I think is good, because even if Vegapunk's whole message goes out, we still want Robin, near the end of the story, to be the one who really, in detail, spells out the whole story for us. So I think it is good that Vegapunk, while he has learned enough to make this broadcast count, he hasn't learned enough to spoil us of the entirety of the Void Century. It wouldn't be right to leave you with baseless speculation, so I'll limit myself to the facts as I know them. Luffy jumps back into Gear 5th. We're really getting some War Curie feats here, because Dory's like, enough, Straw Hat, it's pointless. And Vegapunk's still talking, and we'll continue with that later. Luffy goes into Gear 5th, hits War Curie again, instead of War Curie getting hurt, and it looks like maybe War Curie did get pushed back a little bit here, so maybe it's slightly more even of a clash, but Luffy still got hurt trying to punch him head on, even in Gear 5th. And the Giants are like, stop it, you're cracking us up. So they find this funny every time Luffy does it. But this really shows that maybe not all the Gorosei, maybe not Saturn, because Saturn got sent flying by Gear 5th Luffy. But War Curie, at least, is really able to tank these blows from Luffy, at least as he is now. And we don't know if he's using Advanced Conqueror's Haki. It's really hard to tell when Advanced Conqueror's Haki is being used. But still, I would consider this very impressive against Gear 5th. And so, I really think we're about to jump into like a mini Void Century flashback, because Vegapunk finishes out with, the star of this story was born 900 years ago in a bountiful and advanced kingdom. And just like the legendary sun god Nika from the fables of Elbaf, he too fought with a stretchy and elastic body. They called him Joy Boy. He was the first man to take to the seas, the first one to be called a pirate. So this is a pretty big reveal here. Like, Joy Boy is the first official pirate that the world had ever seen. I think that's pretty wild. And that's the end of the chapter right there. A lot of cool stuff happened. This broadcast is going strong. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I think it is just a excellent time to be a One Piece fan. So we'll talk about this more and some of these events in a little bit more detail in a follow-up discussion video. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. If you did, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. And I hope you have an excellent rest of your day.